You just try to get out and get a little bit of fresh air, catch some Pokemon, and
Fucking get
fucking
shot.
violent. Damn, man.
That's
Speaking of speaking of shot, you heard about the shit going in Miami? Guy laying on the ground, hands up, helping some autistic kid, and they shoot him.
dude, and like yeah, like that when I heard that, I'm like, that's got to be a fucking joke. And then I see the actual like story breakout, and I was like, damn, dude, I can't believe it's gotten to that fucking point. And supposedly, like I read other stuff that came out afterwards, like they were saying that number one, like the dude asked the cop like, "Why'd you shoot me?" And the guy's like, "I don't know." And supposedly, like there was, I don't know if it's more rumor or investigation or what, but they were saying that in actuality he was intending to shoot the autistic guy because he couldn't make out what he had in his hand, and he thought it was a gun, and he shot, and it just so happened that the caretaker was in the way, and he stopped the bullet.
Yeah, but did you see the video? The
Oh
guy,
no, yeah,
the guy's sitting there, and it's a big guy too. Like, I mean, like a big guy, and the other guy is laying not right next to him. He's like to the
yeah, he was
side,
laid
laying on
out,
the ground like this.
arms up, yeah, arms up, like yelling, "Don't shoot me! Don't shoot him! He's a, da, da. Like when I saw that video, I'm like, the shit's hit the fan when fucking like shit like that's going down, and of course, of all fucking places, Florida, which is like, Florida's always the news haven of the weirdest fucking news in the United States.
You know, I actually blame video games for this. You know what they need? Police trainer. Remember those games back in the day with live action graphics? They need
Fucking
to
put
put these cops in police trainer, teach them how to shoot. How you gonna miss that shot?
put that shit, put them fucking have them play police quest and shit, and they're like, "That's it, that's right, you're demoted. You're playing this shit till you beat it."
Yeah, remember cops with the real life video where you would
Yeah,
actually go and you have to practice? I mean, get
lethal
the people.
enforcer, baby.
Yeah, get the people who got the top score in that to be cops. Because these people, if you're shooting people who's sitting up, and then you can't even tell a gun from a toy
Toy
truck,
truck.
and you can't tell a guy sitting up, a big guy from a black guy laying down with his hands up. You need to get your quarters back and get the hell out the arcade.
Got to tease your man. You got to please your man. Got
Back with a new show deep in the basement. Professionalism turned off, screw the ad placement. Skit comedy trolling, plate full of dough. People get offended, you don't get the show.
Alright, we're back with another show. J.A. LaRock here with my boy Randy. What's up?
What's up, player?
Alright, so, I mean, crazy stuff's been going down in Pokemon, man, and we ain't gonna really get into that, but man, we got people getting hit by cars, we got people getting robbed, we got all type of crazy stuff, man. The only thing that's been trying to quell is kids being sent off away for camp. I've been hearing about this sleepaway camp stuff going on, man. I didn't even know about, like, I actually went to camp when I was a kid. I heard about Boy Scouts. I was in, like, Boy Scouts, but I was in the inner city in Chicago because that's where I grew up in Chicago. And the longest camps they had back then was, like, 2 weeks. And that was long because that was weird. You went away for camp and you went out in the woods. Like, we went to, like, Wisconsin. Like between Chicago and Illinois and Wisconsin, you had all the woods out there, and you could actually go to a nice camp. And you'd have 2 weeks in the woods. Some people, they've never even left the city. So it was like, oh my God, trees and nature and all this stuff. And it was cool. But when I heard that sleepaway camp for some of these people is like 7 weeks, you got to ask yourself, is this parents just saying, you know what? I made a mistake. Can I send my kids back? Because that's what I think. It's like trying to send your kids back, and you hope they don't come back. Because some of these are 7 or 8 weeks. That's a long freaking time, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, that's what, 2 months out in the woods. I've gone camping where I've like spent a weekend in the woods, and like I've had a couple. Like one where we were in a cabin, but it had like no showers. Like there was like no plumbing in the house. So, I mean, literally, you had a sink, but it was a sink that you got water from a well. So you had a water container above where the sink was, and like, oh, we're out of water. You had to hit a button and wait for the freaking well to draw the water into this thing, and then
Oh,
you
damn.
can wash your dishes. But that was it. Like, you needed to take a piss and shit. There was an outhouse about 20 feet from the freaking cabin, and that was it. So showers was like, you know, you had to fucking bring baby wipes and shit, and just, you know,
Oh.
that was it. But it wasn't bad. I mean, it was a nice cabin and all that. We were like, you know, nice hiking and all that. And then, like, my wife and I went another time where we went camping, where we like bought a tent when we were there. But this place actually had like bathrooms you could go to, and they had like a pay shower. Like, you put coins in, and water would come out, and it was hot, and you could shower if you wanted to. And that was amazing. Although it was freaking cold, because we went a little bit more later into the fall. And you want to talk about freezing your ass off in the middle of the night. Holy shit, bro. We were both in fucking... well, it doesn't help also that we were in a tent for like 7 people, and it was just my wife and I with 2 fucking inflatable beds, because we're like, fuck that, we're not sleeping on the ground.
Wait, it was you and then a bunch of other strangers?
No, it was me, my wife, and a bunch of like our coworkers and friends of ours and all that.
Oh,
We
I was
went.
gonna say, because
Yeah, no, fuck that. Fuck that, strangers fucking out there. I would have been had a fucking gun. I wouldn't have slept all night. I would have been sitting there like
with the one gun, like
a gun with one eye open, just like, that's right, motherfuckers, come over here. But it was like funny because we bought like sleeping bags that were rated to like 40 degrees, and bro, I slept like, mind you, I'm a big person, you know me, and I'm the type of grow up in Miami. I will sweat at the drop of a dime. And yo, when I tell you, I was wearing socks, long pants, a fucking jacket in this fucking sleeping bag, and freezing my nuts off. It was fucking cold. Like, dude, I was up to here in the sleeping bag, and my fucking nose went numb because of how cold it was outside.
damn.
But it was great though, like to be out there in the nature and da da da. And it was great. But shit, I couldn't imagine 2 weeks or fucking 7 weeks.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, when I went back in the day, I mean, yeah, you had video games and stuff like that, but you weren't quite addicted to technology as much quite yet. And I'm just thinking, because, like, when I heard about these people talking about their sleepaway camps, you can't have electronics. Like, they take your phone. So this sounds almost like a prison, you know? And you get to call your parents once a week, too. So think about this. They got rules here. It's not like, you know, you just walk into whatever. Like, when I went to a camp, this was a camp. It wasn't, like, out in the woods like what you were talking about. This was, like, a designated area, and you had cabins and things like that. So it was kind of half camp, half modern. And if you wanted to, you could call your parents at any time. Now, don't get me wrong. If you had an emergency or something, you call. But besides that, you had a designated time where you call your parents. But besides that, no cell phones, no technology. Now, they had all types of other stuff that you could do. But just think about a lot of kids nowadays, especially you real young. And this was like kids. So like 12, 13, 14. All they know is their phones. So, I mean, now, a lot of these kids were having fun, but there were kids that were just like, this is the first time. So, I mean, 7 weeks, they weren't missing their parents. They were missing that phone. When it was time, they're like, okay, imagine at the end of that first week, they're like, okay, you get one. You get to call mom and dad, or you get to hug your phone. They're like, give me that motherfucking phone.
And the phone calls will be like, Mom, Dad, why you hate me so much? Why'd you send me out to the woods?
The parents are at home like, yeah, I ain't got no kids. I got no kids.
That's the thing right there. It's like, well, you mean you take my kid for 7 to 8 weeks, and I ain't got to deal with the motherfucker? Like, honey, get prepared, because Johnny's going to camp.
It's like the kids call, and they're like, hello, who is this? It's like, wait a minute.
Like, hold on, son. Let me put my drink down.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, what you want? Nah, I'm busy. Call back next week. Oh man,
that's perfect for parents if you think about it. It's like that old joke that Bernie Mac says. Like, once the kids aren't around, you know, you walk around the house naked as you want. You know, shit breaks in the house. You know who the fuck did it.
Oh yeah, for real. And I don't know, man. I loved camp. I mean, crazy stuff went down at camp. Now, when I got older, I found out that camp is where hillbillies go to make babies, because when I went to camp later on, I went to this camp in the Everglades, and it was one of those places where they put you in a designated area, and they're like, okay, you stay in this like little square feet area, and you can have your little bonfire, you put up your tent, you do whatever. And then like Several feet later is another group and another group, another group. And then they do have like an area where they have bathrooms and stuff like way on the other side. And I remember getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and all you hear is all the hillbillies having sex, and it's just, man, it was. I don't want to hear that. All you hear is raccoons, crickets, and then hillbillies having sex. And it just,
Hillbilly's humping.
yeah, it was the worst experience ever, man. It just you can't unhear that, so it's just so it's like it. But you never actually went to a camp when you was a kid, right?
Yeah, no, never went to a camp.
Oh man, so
Yeah, it was yeah. I was deprived in my Miami days. I don't even think they had any camps down in Miami because it was like you go into the Everglades and get eaten alive by mosquitoes.
they told you Everglades, you thought you was being killed.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, the gators are gonna eat us.
That's where you go to dump bodies.
Exactly.
All right, so we actually do have gaming stuff to talk about, and unfortunately, it starts with more censorship. Um, I don't know what's going on. Like last time we talked about how you don't summon the social justice warriors, and Capcom. I don't know what Capcom's doing, man. I mean, look, they already have so much troubles, man. You have Capcom having trouble with people buying their games, and they already have troubles with Street Fighter, and now they're censoring nipples. Like I don't get it. So you put the picture up, and this is with Cammy. Apparently, I mean, I don't know if anybody, some people might don't remember Janet Jackson's nip slip during the Super Bowl. I mean, that was like bare nipple, like breast coming out. This is just like the nipple showing through her freaking leotard, whatever outfit. And I guess they decided that was too much, and they decided to edit it out. So now you don't see it. Who complained about that? Like seriously, like this. I mean, if anyone ever watched Friends, that was the reason why people okay, that was the reason why men watched Friends, so you could see Jennifer Aniston's nipples. Go look up an article where it shows how many times you see Jennifer Aniston's nipples through her. It doesn't matter what she wore. She could have wore a big freaking sweater, and you still saw her nipples. And they decided to take out Cammy's. I mean, what the hell? What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you know, like it was one of the things that we talked about. I think last time that we were together, where like they censored I forgot the one fighter that's in the Street Fighter, where it's the wrestling girl that wears the all blue outfit.
Oh yeah.
And that her ult, like when you do her ultimate move in the Japanese version, she slaps her ass and then she dives at the person, grabs him, and then her partner and her come and like nail the guy and then or nail the person and then do like a combined suplex or whatever. And it was like in the American version, she just kind of like points him out, like does that the thing that calls him out and then does the move.
Right.
And people were in an uproar over that. And it's like, you know, and this is one of those things that like looking at it after pre and post patch, it's like, holy crap, they just did like that, didn't say anything, and it's like, okay, whatever. But like you said, like I think Street Fighter V has been one of the biggest problems that they had, because already they were behind the eight ball where there really wasn't that many fighters available from the get-go. Like it was really, really buggy online. Like people that bought full money were just like really pissed off because they were like, what the hell happened to this like franchise that we love? And then Capcom seems to just be digging themselves like deeper and deeper. It's like, have we pulled enough rope? No, we can pull a little bit more before we hang ourselves and this and that. And it's insane, like how it's getting to like this whole, you know, thing where like they're afraid of like, oh, we can't put nipples because then there's going to be people that are going to be upset with us and da da da. And it's like, you know, it's not for nothing, but like, you know, you and I, we come from the same cloth, as it were, where like you think back when we were kids and you look at the old like Tom and Jerry cartoons.
Oh God.
You know?
Yes.
Well, and this is the thing that I sit there, I look at it, it's like as a kid watching Tom and Jerry, I never thought, oh, here's the black woman that's the house, you know, the housekeeper and blah blah blah. Like I never thought of that. for me, hey, we're watching Tom and Jerry. It's this freaking cat that's trying to catch this mouse, and all this like hilarity that the mouse is doing to freaking like make it so that the cat can't catch him and shit like that. I mean, like one of the things that was always hilarious in me was Jerry going over and pulling on her stocking and then snapping it so that she'd freak the hell out, and then
Yeah.
Jerry would start fucking with her, and she'd jump up on the chair and start calling for Tom. You know, to come, yeah, start calling for Thomas, and I'll never forget when like I sat there and I think it was Cartoon Network or one of them like was putting these like old Tom and Jerry's, and I'm like, oh shit, I remember this one, and then like they start playing the voice because I remember it was a huge part where she was in the beginning of it, and I'm listening to the voice, I'm like, that's not the same voice. I'm like, they completely overdubbed her voice, you know, and they literally cut out any scene where Jerry would pull the stocking down and you could see that her leg was black. So they made it seem like, oh, it's just this big white woman that's the housekeeper, and then like you're like, no, that's not how it actually was. And I mean, if you really, as an adult now, look at the original ones, you're like, damn, how the hell did they get away with that on TV? But it was a completely different time, you know, where shit like that was allowed and nobody said anything. But it's like you fast forward, you know, all this time, and it's like, yeah, they really should have done that joke in that way. Like they could have still done the joke, but a different way. But it's like stuff like this where you have people that like companies like Capcom where, you know, they're doing it because they're like, hey, we want to protect ourselves, the CYA type of thing. But at the same time, like there's hardcore gamers that will want to like experience whatever it is like as it was originally made type of thing. Like, you know, look at the Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball 3 never's coming out to the United States because they're like, nope, we're not going to release it out here because of like the whole thing of like the game. Yet they released the first two, no problem.
Because they're scared now. That's the
Because
thing.
they're scared, yeah. And the thing that was funny is what was the first thing that the manufacturer sit there and said, like, hey, it's not region encoded, so if you want to like, you want to get it, you can sit there and buy it, and you can use it on your American systems and change the language to English, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, but the thing that doesn't make any sense in this case is like, look, it'd be different if, you know, when you see the picture, it'd be different if there was something there that was like really egregious. Then you could be like, okay, maybe you make some change. But you look at the picture, and it's like, okay, you see what this woman has. If she anyone wear an outfit like that, even with the padding that you see, like, anyone ever talk to a woman, like, even when they have the pad that's supposed to cover up nipples, it's gonna show. You look at the picture now, it doesn't look realistic. So it doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you want to censor out nipples, how about censoring out those bat nipples that they put on the Batman costume back in the day? At least now with the new Batman costume, which we're going to talk about, the new Justice League trailer, at least they fixed that. That was some good censorship right there. But with this, man, I don't know. Capcom, you're just screwing yourself, and not in a good way.
It's one of those things, like, you know, if you sit there and you look at it, like, if you look at her costume, like, as it is and all that, like, that's the type of thing, like, with what she wears, there'd be no way that she'd be able to wear a bra with that regardless. You know, so if anybody, they're going to get the sympathizers of the women that are like, fuck it, I'm not wearing a bra anymore, to, like, back that up. Like, yeah, that would be a normal thing if a woman were to actually wear that like that. But it's like, the thing that amazes me also about this, so they removed the nipples, yet she still does her pose where she turns around and you see nothing but her butt and just like her costume going right up her butt.
Yeah.
They have no problem with that.
And she still has a thong V thing that's like all in there. So I mean,
it's like so you censored boobs but not butt. So where do we draw the line here?
I don't know, man.
It's like I figure their thing is, okay, we censored the boobs over the butt because boobs comes first in alphabetical order, so we had to go from top down.
Is there a hierarchy about that?
Like a hierarchy. So they put it in alphabetical order, like, we got to censor something. Oh, boobs is at the top, right? That's it.
Oh, that's how it works.
That's how it works, I guess. But it's just, I don't know, like, it's just, I feel like sometimes as the human race, we take two steps forward sometimes, or take like a step forward, and then we go like, oh wait, hold on, we need to go back a couple, and then we drop back a couple, and it's just like, people just need to drop, like, stop being so uptight. I mean, for crying out loud, we need to take Europe for example, where you can turn on any local channel at 8 o'clock at night in Europe, and there's a pair of tits, like no covered, nothing, nipple to the air, and it's people have grown up with that, and it's just like, okay, whatever.
Oh
It's
God.
I think the big thing when it comes down to it, when you sit there and you look at it, is it's a big thing of what a lot of the people that fight for like the whole thing of like mothers' rights to breastfeed in public and blah 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 blah, like their big fight is, oh, it's because though a woman's breast has been sexualized, that if a woman does anything with it, that it's sexual and it shouldn't be. You know, like I'm the type of person that, you know what, like if a woman wants to breastfeed their child or whatever, if the child has to eat, you know, it's not like she's freaking laying the boob out there and all that. Like if you've ever seen a woman nursing a child, they're very discreet about how they do it. It's not like they pull their boob out and then go like, all right, kid, like they're discreet about it. So it's not like I really think that with Capcom doing this, they're kind of like playing into that stereotype of, oh, you know what, a woman's breast is sexualized and we cannot have the nipple show or anything like that. And I think that's a bad kind of like step in their kind of way of doing it, where they shouldn't like be like, hey, we're gonna pass. Like it amazed me that they didn't even say anything about it. They just like boop and passed it out, and it wasn't until people were like, I don't see a nipple, that they started to notice. You know.
You know, I seen those commercials where it's like I saw this commercial. I swear, I forgot where it was. I think it was in France or something like that. And it was this lady, and she's like in the tub. She's in the shower, and she's like naked, and it's like from the waist up, and you see everything, and she's washing her hair, and I'm just there, just looking, staring, like 100% pervert mode, and I'm like, holy shit. And then next thing you know, like the commercial finishes, and it's like I come out like a stun, like it was in a video game, like someone just hit me with stun, and I had to rewind it because I was watching it on like YouTube or something, or well, no, it was like some other site that was just telling me about like all these like crazy commercials, and I had to rewind it because I didn't know what the product was. Turns out it was for shampoo. And she was just, and it did say the product on the bottom, and it said it in like whatever language, and I was like, oh, I didn't even realize what the product was because I was looking at the lady, and that was just normal. So like, you know, here in America, it's like you would just see the person washing their hair, and no, this was like full. Just I'm just like, wow, we really, I'd buy some Pert Plus or whatever, you know.
No boobs in the thing. I'm like, I need to get the shampoo.
Yeah, I need to get that shit. You know, care about your product, man. You know, show those boobs. I'll buy. I'll buy whatever you're selling. Even when I don't have much hair, but I'll buy a case of that shit. Speaking of caring about products, you know, we talked about Rule 34, where you know if there's a porn for it if you make it, and you know, Blizzard was going out and trying to like knock down any Overwatch type porn that was made. And you know, I did a lot of research because I care about you guys to find any Overwatch porn. But there's a difference between going out and just striking down anyone who makes erotic art, erotic videos, anything like that. But there's another difference between going out and actually purchasing it and saying, "Hey, this is mine now." And this story, I just thought it was hilarious because this has to go with Nintendo, which Nintendo's have its own censorship things too back in the day. And this has to do with Super Mario Brothers. Now, who out there remembers the Super Mario Brothers movie? That was interesting. You remember that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did you watch it, the movie?
I'll put it this way. I love that movie. As shitty as that movie was, I still loved it. I love that. That to me is one of those like guilty pleasure movies for me.
With those mechanical boots?
Dude, it was great. The fucking what the hell was the name of the Super Nintendo gun that they used in the fucking movie? What was the name of that? Shit, I can't remember. It was it was basically the gun that they sold for the Super Nintendo for the light gun games. They had it in the movie, which was hilarious. Oh my god, it's gonna fucking drop. I'm gonna have to Google this shit.
Well, so that movie came out and it flopped. I mean, it didn't even make its money back, and people didn't like it. I mean, I watched it and I thought it was bad. I didn't completely hate it, but I thought it was bad. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's porn parodies pretty much for anything. One of the big porn parodies was a Warcraft porn parody that was going out back in the day when World of Warcraft was big, and a lot of people had a lot of fun watching it. You didn't know about this?
I didn't know about that.
I'll send you a link after the show.
Holy shit!
Don't show your wife, or show her. If you guys get down like that, you can have good fun tonight. But yeah, there's a lot of porn parodies out there. Sex Trek, that there was more Sex Trek than Star Trek movies, and they have it going back from the original series, Deep Space Nine. They have a Janeway one.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord.
so it's yeah. So there's porn parodies are a really big industry in the porn and adult entertainment industry, and they make a lot of money, and a lot of people watch it, and
They have a Pokemon one.
Oh my God! Really? I can imagine.
You don't know about that?
I didn't know about the Pokemon one. You got me.
Oh my god! All right.
I can imagine Misty getting down with that shit, and Brock.
It is hilarious because I'm trying to remember. It's I think on the Rocketwood website is the name of it, and they do all these and it's like a 10-minute thing or whatever. And I remember reading an article they were talking about that it's like horribly bad, but it is so freaking hilarious.
Like based off the cartoon?
Yes. So it is Ash, Misty, and then Pikachu. Okay. Yeah, no. So it's so in reading of the article, and they show like pictures, like it's a girl dressed up in like a Pikachu cosplay. Like they painted her yellow and shit, and her outfit's in yellow. And then like Misty and of course Ash get it on, and Pikachu joins. No. It is the most especially the way that they did the makeup of the Pikachu when you see the still photos. It is the most disturbing thing you will ever see. You will fucking have nightmares from seeing the still pictures.
Truth. How many of you guys are looking up that shit right now? Honestly, I want a poll. How many of you motherfuckers are looking up that shit right now?
That is the dude. I swear to God, I hadn't seen the video itself, but just the still pictures that they had in this article. I looked at that. I'm like, yo, I'd have fucking nightmares for years if I were to watch this shit. Holy Christ, dude. But yeah, that was one of those things that was it was that was the true show. I think it was, and as a matter of fact, the article that it dealt with it had to do with I think the Rule 34 that they said there is shit out there, and that was what this guy brought up in his article, and people didn't believe him. Yeah.
Well, as we said, there's a porn parody for everything, and they made a porn parody for Super Mario Brothers based off of the. Well, I think this is how really actually the timeline was. It was actually made off of the game, and what happened is that porn parody was actually doing pretty well, and they made it into two parts. Actually, the story goes how it's funny because in the porn industry, they want to have really short shoots. Okay, no, pun intended. And they want to make these in a couple of days, really a couple of hours. But this had a big budget with storylines and stuff. Here a little pro tip for you guys. Back in the day, the older the porn, they actually used to have sets and stories and stuff. It wasn't just take off clothes and bang. They actually had scripts and stuff. And these are one of those movies that actually had scripts. And it was going to be 3 days with production budget and everything, and this guy was shopping it around trying to get it made. So because it was 3 days long, they were like, okay, we're gonna make this movie into 2 movies. So it was Super something Brothers 2 and 1 and 2. So they split it into 2 movies, and they made it, and it was doing actually well on the adult entertainment scene. So after the Super Mario Brothers movie came out and did so bad, Nintendo was like, yo, fuck this shit. We can't have our intellectual property out there anymore because we can't risk it taking such a bad hit. So then they heard about this movie and they're like, no, we can't take the risk. Now, I don't think anyone was going to confuse a porn parody and the film or the game, but Nintendo actually sought out this film, both versions, and bought the rights to it, and they locked it up, and I guess maybe they have it in their vault. Now, obviously, it's the internet, so you can seek it out and watch it if you want. But yeah, Nintendo actually cares enough to get it. So it's called Super Hornio Brothers. That's the actual name. Hornio.
That is too crazy.
That's awesome. Midnight
That is-
does it. I really want to just end the show and go see the Pokemon.
I'm telling you, dude, nightmares, bro, nightmares.
I'm
Look up
distracted.
pictures. Look up pictures of it, and you're fucking gonna have nightmares.
Damn.
And even the dude in the article said he's like, it's a hilarious parody of it and whatever. He's like, but yo, this shit it will give you nightmares. That horrible Pikachu costume.
See, they had a chance to introduce furries into it, but they decided to go with like body paint and make.
Yeah, it was body paint and. I mean, I was about to say, like you say, like the whole porn parody, like that's like you say, it's a huge freaking thing that these damn companies are doing. Like you could literally find just about any movie out there, and there is a porn parody of it.
Oh yeah.
Like I've seen fucking like Titanic, they fucking did Star Wars, they've done fucking X-Men, like you name it, it's out there.
Oh, they had fun with Avatar with the blue. There were so many Avatar porns. Oh my god.
God, yeah, it was. Well, that shit made a fuck ton of money, so of course they were gonna do that.
Fuck done. Well, speaking of movies, how about a legit one? By now, if you haven't seen the Justice League trailer, I mean, come on.
Dude, that shit looks insane.
Did DC have a weekend or what? I mean, come on, Wonder
Man.
Woman and Justice League.
All I know is, like, looking at both those trailers, as soon as like Batman v Superman dropped, they were like, these fucking movies better be way better than what Batman v Superman was. Because, bro, like I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Batman versus Superman.
What?
I haven't seen it. Yeah, no, I know I'm behind, but I know like supposedly I heard the version that's out now, that's on Blu-ray and all that. That's supposed to be the rated R version of the movie. Like they did cut out some stuff, and I heard, and it does explain some things that people that saw the movie theater version were like, "The fucking makes no sense." But from reviewers that I've seen online, they're like, "Yeah, it's still just as terrible. It's just like at least it explains some more of the scenes of stuff that they cut out and stuff like that, and they rearranged that was supposed to be." Which is funny to me that they when you look at all the articles of like after that shit came out, that the director was like, yeah, they butchered it in the editing room, and that's why it's horrible and blah blah blah. Which I mean, who knows to the truth of that? But I mean, it's one of those things. Like I want to see it because even if you think back to like movies like friggin' the original Superman and Superman 2, if you watch the DVD releases of the Richard Donner cut, which were the original way he wanted the movie, they're so much better. Like you look at that and then you watch the freaking original one and you're like, damn, the studio freaking butchered that movie, how he wanted his vision of it and all that. And I mean, granted, like the director, he kind of like tried to pull one of those type of things of like, oh, they changed my vision of the movie and all that. I mean, granted, from what I hear, they're like, didn't change that much. Like it was still pretty bad, and if it comes down to that, like you got to blame like it was bad scripting, bad writers, and blah blah blah, and it must have been like a bunch of pressure to like we need to get this movie done type of thing to get it out there. But like I'm so tempted to see that. But like looking at the trailer for for Justice League, and just seeing how they introduced Aquaman, seeing how they introduced the Flash, seeing how they introduced Cyborg, it's like, man, if they fuck that up, I'm going to be so pissed because they've made it look so good. And I mean, if you look at it, DC in general has been behind the 8 ball to catch up to freaking Marvel like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you have to give Marvel, like, they have phenomenal script writers, they get great directors to do these things, and the editors that edit everything together at the end, like, they know this is what the director's vision was, and they don't try and change too much of that. And I think that's a huge thing. And I mean, now that Disney like owns them and all that, like, at that point they're like, we don't care like how much kind of goes into it, because they know, like, if it's a really good movie, they're gonna make their money back and then some, and they have. You know, there's been very few Marvel movies that have come out that when you look at them, they don't do all that great. But then the ones that they come out with that are great more than make up for the ones that they don't, that aren't a huge hit.
So what do you think of like the costumes? Like some people were saying like Flash costume looks a little bit too much in the detail. Same thing with Cyborg, a little bit too much into it. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I obviously it's going to be a lot more into it than what you saw. I'm talking about the Flash costume than what you see in a TV show, things like that. Like, what is your opinion?
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, so I had never watched, like, I had always wanted to watch Arrow and never watched Arrow. And I know they introduced the Flash in Arrow, and then they gave him his own spin-off series. And once season 1 came out on Netflix, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna binge watch this thing and watch it and just see kind of like how it is. And the thing that amazes me is, like, when you look at what DC puts out for TV shows in comparison to movies, their TV show level is like up here, and their freaking movies seems like they're down here. And it's like, I thought like the costume was pretty cool, like the way that they did everything, like the whole timeline, like they went into the whole story of like him as a kid seeing this like red and yellow Flash, and then his mother dies, and then he becomes this forensic officer because he wants to, like, his dad gets charged with the murder, and he wants to like free his dad, so that's how he figures to get, and then he gets his Flash abilities, and then like he starts doing all this stuff, and then like they start going through the storyline where he actually eventually like runs, and like they're kind of like pushing him to like go faster, and he eventually goes back in time. And that's when you realize, like, holy shit, the red and yellow Flash that he saw was him and Reverse Flash fighting each other because Reverse Flash wanted to kill his mom. So it's like all this crazy, like, they're coming out with so many stories of the comic book where, like, it was this whole paradox of, like, he went back, his mom had to die so that he could become the Flash. And apparently I hear for season 3, they're supposed to do the story is supposed to be the whole thing where he, like, goes back in time and saves his mom, and then his dad ends up dying from something, but then he never becomes the Flash. Because the things don't happen the way that they're supposed to. So they're already starting to implement in that whole like multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Already out there into the universe, which is part of the thing I supposedly heard, that because everybody was like, oh, they're surprised that they didn't ask the actor that plays, Barry Allen in the TV show to play him in the movie. And at first, the director was like, well, my vision for the Flash was different from that of the TV show. But, like, the real rumor mill is that, like, in the backgrounds, DC wants to, like, do it this way because they want to make it seem like the Flash that you see in the DC universe for Justice League is a different Flash from the one that's in the TV show, and that they're two different universes in that multiverse. And that eventually, like, the grand vision of the doing is they eventually want to do a thing where they like do like what they've done with the New 52, where they like collapse all the timelines together, and you have like one person, one new Flash, one new Batman, and all that stuff.
And that's also how you can bring Supergirl into it, because they're moving Supergirl from CBS to the CW, and
Right.
she was in an alternate. She's in another dimension, So and then Flash already was on her show, so
Right.
now that's a way how you can have them eventually either combine universes, or even if you don't combine universes, you can have cameos on each other's show like
Right.
that. So I mean that's cool. Um, what about I always like the fact that they did everything that they could possibly do to make sure that Aquaman was as badass as possible. Even though they did the fish joke at the end, which I thought was awesome, but they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Aquaman is badass," and they did that in the Justice League cartoon too by making him as brooding as fuck. But
Yeah.
they made sure that Aquaman is badass. He is no pussy.
That was that's like that's like one of my favorite like skits that they had on Robot Chicken, where like they show this girl getting assaulted on a beach, and
Oh
like
yeah.
Aquaman pops up out of the water and he's like, "Hey, hey, leave her alone. If you don't, I'm gonna call a fish over here." And the guy keeps doing it. And he's like, "All right, I'm calling a fish." And you see like a little fish start jumping next to him. He's like, "All right, you better stop now." He's like, "I'm gonna call another one." And you see like another little
And
fish,
he throws a
and they're like on,
starfish.
and they're like all on land, and he's like not doing anything. And it was like, dude, that is fucking hilarious because that's true. When you think about the old school Aquaman, like he couldn't come out of the water, so it was like, yeah, what the fuck would he do if they were on land? Oh man, but like I like the actor that they got for Aquaman, like Jason Momoa. Like he's pretty cool. Like he was in Game of Thrones and he
Yeah,
was great in
Drago.
that. You know, he was great in that. Um, the reboot of Conan, like he was good as for what it was. I really think that it just didn't have as strong of a script to like propel him how it should have. But he's done some pretty cool things, and like, and I remember when they first announced him as Aquaman, like everyone was like, him as Aquaman, like how the hell's that gonna go? Um, and I think part of the thing that like that led up to like people saying like, oh yeah, he could probably do it is when they came out with the original Injustice game where they made fucking Aquaman this like badass like fighter and all that, and it was like, all right, they could probably get away with that if they do more of that, you know. And that's what it seems like they've done with that. Like, I found it interesting that the Flash in the Justice League, he's kind of like this nerdy, like doesn't have any friends type of person,
Yeah.
which is an interesting way. But I kind of like the way how he kind of like moves, like where they show Ben Affleck like throw the batarang at him, and like you just see it in slow motion, just moving, and he kind of like steps aside and just is watching it and just grabs it out of the air, and then like freaking, he's like, "Okay, so I heard you're fast." And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm in." He's like, "Yeah, can I keep this by the way?" Like
You,
that was
you
like,
think that the fans have like forgiven, or I don't know if that's the right word, but you think that we've accepted? I mean, for me, I made fun of it of Ben Affleck, but I mean, I'm over it. And I noticed, like, I read the comments, YouTube, Reddit, different posts. I don't really see anyone really saying anything about Ben Affleck anymore. It's like doesn't necessarily saying he's great, but I don't see anyone really talking much shit anymore.
so the thing about it is like there's like parts two of my coworkers, they do a podcast that they review movies and all that, and they talked about the Batman versus Superman, how like they really didn't like it, da da da. But like one of the things that they said, like the reasons why they did not like the movie, and I'm not going to go into it because it's kind of like spoiler ish. Like they were like, man, the way that they wrote it, like they wrote so many huge loopholes in stuff that happens in the movie that they were like, yeah, you can't do that. But now, like they sat there and they said, like Affleck as Batman, he did a really good job as far as like he portrays like a good Bruce Wayne, a good Batman, like, and you can see. So the way that they said it is like when you look at him, his portrayal of Batman, it's not the younger Batman. It's he's already been Batman for a very long time. So he's like kind of struggling with that whole inner conflict of do I keep doing this or do I stop? And he says that when you look at like the trailers and all that, where you see him like running into the dust and getting the people, like the reason why he goes after Superman is he gets upset like all these people lost their lives because of Superman, and that people were worshiping him as a god when they shouldn't, you know. And it's one of those things where like he says like he does a very, very good job of like showing this internal conflict in him where like yes, I want to sit there and stop this guy, but at the same time like all this other stuff that's happened in my past happened because I was Batman. Um and he says like he does a very good job of that, and like one of my friends was like, I really want to see what Ben Affleck is going to do with that solo Batman film, like how he's going to do this and all that, because he like brought such a like interesting twist to the Batman role itself. And it just seems like, even looking at this at the trailer and all that, like where he's kind of like, he has this little quirkiness and all that. And I like the whole like part where you see Wonder Woman turns to him. He's like, so what do you say? He's like, kind of yes, kind of no. And then they show him like slam him against the wall, and she's like, is that a more yes or a more no? He's like, no, yeah. He said no. Like that I thought was like kind of funny, and how they did that.
Yeah,
And then
no,
that like scene where all four of them are standing there, and like he sits there, and I forgot who it was that Cyborg says something to him, and he's like, I'm only like that when I have to be. And I was like, damn, that's a cool line.
yeah, I think that so far, I mean, obviously it was short, it's like 2 minutes or something,
Yeah.
but I mean, they showed us a good part. I mean, there's more to come, but I mean, considering especially how the internet is, they can shit all over less than 2 minutes. We've seen it before, but the fact that they shown us that, and it was good, and
Yeah.
there was more trailers than that, but we'll have to leave the rest for another episode, because there's also Doctor Strange and things like that.
Oh, dude,
Wonder Woman.
we could do a freaking whole video on just the movies coming out. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but I want to talk about one more thing before we go, and this has to do with trying to give back to a community, but whenever you try and do that, you can always make a mistake. And also to bring up a game that we don't talk about a lot, just because it's kind of like sits out there on the side, and that's Star Trek Online. Man, I remember when it was talked about when that was going to come out, and it was like, oh, it's going to be this great game and all that. Then it got pushed back and pushed back, and then like when it came out, then it kind of like disappeared. And it was like at that time when all these games were starting to go free to play, and it like fell into that hole. It's out there with like the Dungeons and Dragons Online that went free to play, and it's under the guise of Cryptic. And it's funny because, so if anyone knows about Star Trek, they know about the Ferengi, and the Ferengi are like the greedy capitalists and stuff, and they're supposed to be the ones that do all the business. They're shady and all that. So they gave out to like some very special people this like tier 6 ship that's like gold, and it's like a special ship. And so I don't play the game anymore. Like I play like very early. So I was reading through to see if you can get this ship, and it's not clear if you can get this exact one, but the color I know, and some of what's on the ship you definitely can't get. And the confusion with it is that when they gave it to these people, you don't know exactly what the criteria was to get it. Like they talked about how it was very special, and it was for like people who have been with the game for a long time, but people
Showed
are speculating.
unwavering support.
Yeah. So you don't know if it's just time, investment, meaning money, or like what you did in the game, like testing, things like that. So I mean, consider this game has been out for a while, so it could mean like you did beta testing. It could mean you bought expansion packs. It could mean that you were actually a subscriber, meaning that you were paying a monthly fee, not just a free to play. It could mean that you actually spent real world money in the game. I mean, so
it shows like the biggest theories are that either you had been a lifetime subscriber, so always subscribed to the game,
yeah,
or you spent like over $1,000 in a year in pay stuff for the game itself.
Yeah, exactly.
But they haven't like come out and said like, yeah, this is what it was like. They basically said like, oh, only a select few people got it, and like we're not giving out any details as to how they got it, type of thing.
Right. So people got mad, obviously, because there are people like, I spent X, I've been here for X, I've done X, and I didn't get shit. and yeah, the
And it
community
was
people aren't talking.
Yeah, and it was weird because like when you saw the way that they like promoted it, they made it seem like, hey, we're giving out this free ship. It was like no one knew what you had to do, but they worded it so cryptically that it was like it would make you think like, oh, if I play the game, I'll get the ship. Cool, you know. Like it was really, really like I saw when they first announced it. I'm like, what the fuck, you know?
And that's one of those things where you never really know. I mean, everyone likes those rewards, especially when you're playing a game that isn't that popular, that went free to play. I mean, that's the problem. You see it time and time again, where when a game comes out and let's say you're early access or you're a founders pack or something like that, and then you buy into it, you're excited. If you're one of those people, yes, you may get some reward, but sometimes you got to be happy with what you get at the beginning, or that
Mhm.
you're first, or that you were there, something like that. You may get some reward, like EverQuest 2 back in the day had a reward that just time. Like if you log in, even if you log in right now, you might get a reward just for having it, from the beginning. But sometimes they do stuff like this where they'll just randomly pick people. And look, if you think that they will value based on just dollars that you spent overall? The answer is yes. I mean, I work for a game company, and yes, they do know how much you spend down to a penny, and
Mhm.
that does count. Now, does that automatically mean that was the criteria in this case? No, but you know, it can help. And I mean, look, it
True.
does help when it comes down to punishments. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look, if you do something really egregious, then yeah, you're probably going to still get banned. But if it isn't that bad and you are what they call a whale and you spend a lot of money, yeah, you can get away with stuff. Just ask Hillary Clinton.
Oh, you went there. Well, like it's kind of like
I love you.
if you look at the
Don't kill
flip
me.
side of the coin, look at this thing Evolve that just went free to play, and it's like people were complaining about like Evolve, where it literally like they said that dude at peak times you maybe had 200 people online, if that. And they went free to play and they changed the way the whole game plays based on feedback from people, and now it's like surged up to over like 10,000 players. But of course what's going to end up happening is you have all the people that bought the game and all that were bitching like, well, we paid $60 for this game, what do we get, type of thing. And like right now, like all that they've kind of done is they've given those people like special skins that you can only get if you had bought the game and stuff like that. And like of course, people being people, they're like bitching like, no, 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 we should get more than this and blah blah blah. And like I think where the big problem is that like they give you 3,000 of the in-game currency, and that was part of the thing that people were complaining is because like to get a new character, I think it's like 10,000 currency or something like that. So
Oh,
they're like, dude, we're not even like a third of the way to unlock one other character, and we paid for the game itself. Um, and like it's, I think like you have to find that like middle ground type of thing. Um, it's kind of tough in a situation like that because like I remember I played Star Trek Online when it came out and all that, and I thought it was interesting. And at the same time, I laughed at how they did the storyline because I was like, okay, so the story is you're gonna have all these captains, and it's like, how the fuck are you gonna get all these new players to be captains of their own ship? And then like you start playing the beginning and the Borg fucking attacks the shit and kills every captain that's there. So you as the ensign on the ship, they're like, congratulations, you're a captain. That was like, that's a fucking crazy ass but funny way of doing it where it's like, okay, yeah, that makes enough sense that I can understand why now I'm a captain.
yeah, you're on the bridge, and then a laser beam just come and kills all the officers except for you, and you're the last one. You're like, I guess I'm promoted.
Yeah, they fucking come on like you get a fucking Starfleet thing and they're like, where's the captain? And you're like, everyone's dead but me. And they're like, congratulations, you're captain now.
It's like the reverse red shirt. You're the red shirt guy, and then everyone dies except you.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus. When I saw that, I was like, okay, this got dark quick.
You know, I was just thinking that I think the game that will actually end up being like the best game in the world will be the one where they do it like Las Vegas. They'll have a convention, and what'll happen is if you spend a lot of money, they'll treat you like a high roller. When you
There
go
you go.
out to the like everyone has to go to this convention, right? But the high roller, they'll have like sexy ladies come out, or if you're a girl, they'll have sexy guys come out, and they'll treat you like a high roller. You get a suite at the hotel, a dinner, a limo. They'll pick you up at the airport and drive you around and treat you just like so for once in your life you'll feel like a winner, and there you go. You do that, and then they'll take a picture and you'll be like, hey, like that. That's what gamers need, so that when they go they can look like a winner in real life, because they
And
need
then they
that.
snag your wallet and go, gotcha, bitch.
That's right. Well, the whole time they're just taking that shit out of your account. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
You're like, enjoying your time here? Gotcha, bitch.
As you go bankrupt, baby.
Uh-huh. Shit.
All right, so that's another episode of our show. I'm Jay LaRock. That's Ren.
No, sorry, man. Take it easy, my brother.
We're gonna be back, and we hope you like it. Follow us, and if you didn't like the show, that's okay. But if you got
Fuck
offended, guess what? You didn't get the show. All
Fuck
right,
it.
peace out, guys. I'll catch you later.
Peace.